Hi everyone, welcome to the Nathan Ross Rees Reformer podcast. We've got a special edition today here in London, and I'm with the lovely Kim Shipton. Now she's the owner of Cedar Studio Pilates. Cedar. Now that's been established for a long time, isn't it? Yeah. You've been around for quite a while. Now she's also a mum. She also runs and certifies programs to get new instructors on board to be certified in Reformer Pilates. So, interestingly, we've known each other since 2020. And to have this conversation today, I just find it awesome because we've kind of come full circle from initial point of contact. And when we're both in very different stages of our career and our lives. To where things are now, which is really exciting. But yeah, thank you so much, Kim, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm extremely nervous. I hate being under the spotlight, and there are like 20 in here. So yeah, I'm just going to look at you and pretend there's nothing else around.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's the reason I wanted to get you onto the podcast really is so we can learn more about your story. I feel like you're a bit of a pioneer in the UK Reformer Pilates space when it comes to the dynamic form, because I know that things in different parts of the world, from my experience at least, they tend to move at different speeds. There's different parts of the world that have adopted this kind of dynamic and exciting form of Reformer Pilates earlier than others.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's definitely pockets of space where you could say potentially there's resistance and there's other parts which are just super excited and jumping on board. But you really kind of got on board with it, I would say, quite early in the UK space.
Yeah. That's amazing. You're calling me a pioneer. It's so weird, the different perception you have of yourself. Because, you know, like for me, I was just teaching the way that I loved it and, you know, then like gradually passing that on to the people who came to me, basically. But my, I guess I trained, it wasn't classically, but with Balanced Body when, I should know the year of this, it was like 14 years ago. So, when Suki was born. So that was in 2014. And then I was teaching. I was inspired, like everyone is, by Instagram now, of different instructors that you follow and flows that you like. And then gradually started to realise that I like to, you know, like after a session, time was so limited having lots of young children that after a session I wanted to feel like I had worked and done something, like just going and, you know, stretching and feet in straps and just everything kind of nice and flowy, just didn't tick my box. You know, I wanted to train hard and train effectively. And so that's what really grew my passion for, like, you know, combining and putting different flows together that really, really, you know, like hurt and made you feel like you had done something the next day, which led me to you because in lockdown I found your page and was just like, my God, this guy's awesome. I messaged you directly, didn't even think you'd come back to me. And then we managed to like start training together online, didn't we, virtually? So that's, it. And then, like say, now we're sat here together 5 years later. So it's crazy.
Yeah. It's been a massive journey, but the experience that you've had in your progression, in your story, that's one thing I'm really excited about. I was watching a video of yours recently where you mentioned that you started out with one reformer in your garage.
I did.
You know
and so that's actually a real difference now between people who are doing like the academies and stuff. Everyone's just, because like reformers having such an explosion. It's, you know, people are going all out and getting, you know, their 8, 10, 7 beds and just starting their studio. Whereas I started really organically. My daughter was kind of 2 months old when I did the teacher training course. I was working as a broker in the city before, and I was actually living in Switzerland when I was pregnant. And I got made redundant, and I was like, what can I do? I knew I wanted to work. I knew I wanted to do something. And at that time, I was doing like 4 times reformer a week. Yep. And I was like, what can I do that I love? You know, everyone's talking about, you know, always picking a job that you feel passionate about. And I was like, that was the only thing I could think of that I really, really love. So I was like, do you know what? I'll do the course, buy a reformer. Like, you know, my investment for my redundancy money went all into the course and my equipment. And then I just thought, if no one turns up, at least I'll have my own reformer. Yeah. And at that time I had moved to Hertford, which is where my husband is from. We'd recently just got married. So I didn't really know anyone there either. He has three brothers with three sister-in-laws who were all local and had children in local schools. So I thought at least I could maybe leverage off their network. I just started and I just put it out there. I was doing a boot camp on a Tuesday morning. So I said to all the mums on that, does anyone want to turn up and I'll teach you for free? And then it just grew really organically and through word of mouth. So I was kind of doing all one-to-ones at the beginning around the baby. So she would sleep at lunchtime. So I'd maybe do, maybe 2 or 3 hours a day, one-to-ones. Then that would gradually grow. I then ended up falling pregnant another 3 months later. So I had 3 babies in 3 years, basically. Wow. But was still able to, even when they were young, still go back to work. My studio was at home. So I was so lucky to have that flexibility. And then every time I got fully booked on that one reform, I just bought another bed. So then I was like, okay, 2 to 1 is a more effective use of my time. And then that went to 3. But then there was a really big challenge between going from 3 beds to 4 because actually the clients I was teaching really liked that personal approach and that one-to-one. Nobody wanted to be in a group class, as it were. So I kind of had to really navigate that quite carefully with my existing clients because, group classes felt less personal and I guess everyone thought they'd be less effective.
Yep.
I think what did I do in the end to make that work? I just said to everyone, look, come and try. I tried to put people together that knew each other because at that stage it was still only word of mouth. I kind of never had an online booking system. I was always, I do 9, 10, 11 a.m. And then maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon and they'd all be fully booked with just people I knew. So then I ran out of space at home and we knocked through the wall of my garage to make it slightly bigger, which is when I think you last came. But that kind of threw me a bit because before I had all the beds in a line and then, when you have 2 facing each other and then you're saying left and right and it's actually a lot harder to teach when you're just not all in one line, isn't it?
That's right.
And then we stayed there for a bit and then we moved house to my most recent house where I now have 7 beds, which is crazy because, like I say, it was just me and doing one-to-ones at the very beginning.
So this new place seems like it's more of like a purpose-built studio at the back.
Yeah, so it was actually just there. It was a stable block at the back of where we moved to, and that was really important where the next move was because where I was having 5 people turn up every hour, our neighbours were getting really annoyed. And there was lots of complaints about parking and I wasn't allowed to have more than 2 people on that. We lived on this kind of estate where there were lots of other houses, so it was like a managed estate. Where we are now, we have freedom and weirdly, we're still waiting to do the renovation of the actual house. It still looks like a disgusting old bungalow from the outside. But we had to create a roundabout in the front of it because of the 12 people coming in and, for my teacher training academies, I have a maximum of 12 people. So on a Saturday and Sunday, that roundabout, literally everyone kind of comes around each other in a little worm and then comes out and it works perfectly. So parking was a big thing when you're doing it from home, when you grow like that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an exciting journey. That I love the organic nature of it, though. It's like you're making decisions based on how things are going. Like if you've got one machine and then you got the demand, so let's put another machine in. It's almost like you just keep on reinvesting. Yeah,
definitely. But my husband always jokes at me because he's like, you have no idea of real business because I'm like, no electricity, but it's the house, right? And the rent and, so I'm like, oh, I don't think I could do that. And he's like, you literally have no costs as a business because you're at home, that's not so unstressful compared to a normal startup, like you say, where you're finding your lease, you're going through that process. But that's what's been really nice about it because when the children were so young, most of my cost was paying for childcare so that they could, until they started school when they were 5, I didn't really make any profit at all, even though I was that busy and all of my classes were back to back. The babysitter was just, paying for all of my time in there. But I knew actually, and now in hindsight, it's amazing because you look back and think if I hadn't have put those years in then the business wouldn't be where it is now. So those 5 years was so important. And I'm dealing with a lot of women now who are, retraining in their late years and they kind of lost their confidence because they haven't done anything apart from being mum, which, by the way, is not to be underestimated. But, it's so important, I think, to kind of get back into what you love immediately. Otherwise, you kind of do lose your way a bit, or like your confidence. You think you can't, you think you can't do it. And I still have that issue now. Every night before I do my academies, I suddenly have that imposter syndrome, like, oh my God, why is everyone coming to me? Like, I hate, I just get so worried. And then once I meet everyone and see their faces, I'm like, okay, right, I'm in my zone now. But it's just that initial, that self-doubt, isn't it? Which I think everyone has to a certain extent.
Definitely. The important thing is, though, that you can feel those feelings, but you can still choose to act. And
Yeah,
as long as you've got a strong enough reason why you're doing it, I think you'll always be fine.
exactly.
Yeah, because you're obviously very connected to creating an experience which you believe is optimal for the trainers coming through.
Yeah.
And it's probably something that you would have hoped you could have done too when you came through, I'd imagine.
Exactly. So when I did my teacher training, I was like, I think there was like 25, maybe 30 of us in a room, 7 reformers. So, you didn't have that much time on the reformer to practice in between. There were also, all I found, I was the only person coming from a complete change of career. Everyone else was like a PT or a yoga instructor. And so I was like really intimidated to ask questions or really just to like speak up at all. And yeah, you just didn't have that much time on the reformer. Whereas that's why the course I do, because there's such a mix of people. Like some people are housewives who haven't worked for 30 years. Some people are yoga instructors. Some people are PTs. So I'd say a maximum of 12 people, so that once everyone gets in that room and we all chat to each other, it's like we're all equal. There's no silly question you can ask, and everyone is starting at the same point essentially. Yep. So, and I think that is the really unique thing about it. It's small, and that is so personal.
Yep. You do need the contact hours when it comes to like being on the machine, feeling everything in your own body. You need the contact hours of practicing, receiving feedback, and optimizing it. It's also nice when you're in that stage to have a kind of connection to everyone you're training with.
Yeah, so we have set up this WhatsApp group for every academy, and they all stay in touch. Like, for example, this morning someone's gone, oh, here's my studio fully done, and everyone's asking what flooring and where the mirrors are from. So you can use all of that. That's a real community that I kind of take for granted that we create each time, that people just stay in touch and like actually follow each other's journey. Whereas mine was kind of very sort of soulless, and I left, and you feel quite alone when you go off after you've done the actual initial learning. And actually, from what I know now, obviously the in-person learning in the studio with your manual is so important, but actually it's the practice hours that turn you into a decent teacher, and that's so important. So it's just teaching as many different types of bodies and, watching them move, correcting them, and just getting your confidence that way.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, without that understanding of what it would feel like to be a different person than them, they find it hard to empathise with people, and basically everyone's experience on the reformer is relative to their body, because when we talk about things like standardized springs and targeting muscle groups, all the standardized springs that load target muscle groups are based on the average body mass, body length, and if someone weighs much more or much less, or they got a much longer or much shorter body, then their experience is different. They're kind of instructor that can like look at someone, watch their speed of movement, range of motion, and feel like what it would feel like to be them. You can see if they're moving slow or fast, or if that's what you want. And,
I mean, that thing you always say sticks with me, which is like you wouldn't go to the gym for a year and like lift the same weights, so you want to get stronger, and that's what it's all about, like strength and progression and, challenging yourself. So there's nothing I hate more. I went to, I won't name any names, but a class in London the other day because I'm so into back into doing my own personal practice again, which I'm so delighted about. And literally kind of, 12 minutes in, we were still bridging, and I was like, and like I said, that time is limited. So it's for me, I was like, I wanted that. I've travelled an hour on a train, the train's taken me an hour to get in. I've got 1 hour to do a class. And I just knew already that it was going to be kind of clock watching. And some reformer can be like that, if it's too kind of generic and just, slow, I think is, but that's the beauty of, I think, Pilates, that class has a place for someone. Someone wants to go and do that class with that particular teacher, and someone wants to come and train and work hard with me or you, for example. So there is a place for everyone. It's just, I think you gravitate towards teaching the style that you like to train yourself, don't you?
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. And you see that in instructors. People tend to, as instructors, we tend to teach the things that we like to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Exactly. So when you see me do extension or any sort of that in class, I'm useless. Like my upper back is quite rigid. So I'm always doing the stuff that I'm really good at rather than the stuff I need to get better at. Rotator cuff stuff, I've never practiced that either.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think that is true. I mean, the more different opportunities there are and different experiences that we all create, it just kind of expands the market in total. I don't really think necessarily that kind of scarcity mindset of there's a limited amount of people and there's so many studios and we are.
Do you not? Because that's really interesting, because it's now, I mean, like where I live in a small town outside of Hertford, outside of London, called Hertford. And I was like the first person there when I started. And now there's maybe 10, 11. And they're all different styles, which is going back to the way that I trained with Balanced Body, your original question. We had a manual, but it was, they'd be like, here's a lunge. Here's a plank. But as you know, you can do a plank on a box, on the floor, adding a press up on a blue spring, on a yellow spring. So I guess what I wanted to do with my manuals on the academy is just really provide as many different variations as possible. So I think that's what gives you your unique selling point as a teacher once people start coming to you regularly. So my loyal customers come like 2-3 times a week. And one of my things is like, I would never, if I see their face come in, I don't ever want to teach the same class that they've already done once. And yeah, I think some of the bigger corporates just put the same class on repeat, until, so if you're coming 5 times a week, you're doing that class 2 or 3 times. So I think that's kind of lazy, right? But I guess I have that beauty of being able to do that as a small business owner, teaching all my classes. When you grow to the next level, like what you're doing, you can't have a control over every sort of choreo, I guess, that all of your teachers do. Or do you? How do you do it with your studio?
Yeah, so I think I think it's a really interesting idea and the topic, because as businesses get bigger and bigger and bigger, if their intention is to try and really keep a control on consistency, they're kind of limited in what they can do about it. I think one of the easiest ways to maintain consistency would be to literally prescribe exactly what the class is and have the instructors only do what they're told to do. My personal opinion on that is I personally wouldn't be able to be within that system as an instructor.
You don't want to break the rules.
Because I value like the creativity and the intentionality, how you can kind of have the personal autonomy to create a class. And it's also like a good challenge to create classes which are perfect for the people you have in front of you. So being within a system that's a little bit too rigid, for me personally, I wouldn't necessarily love that. But that's okay, because if the systems are still well designed and the instructors are quite happy to go along with teaching a class that's already made, that's 100% fine. Like I'm not necessarily against that at all.
But you'll find it is a type of artist, like kind of, creativity, just, the choreography is what sets you apart as a teacher, isn't it? So, you can't expect someone who's done a course to then not be able to express that themselves. Otherwise they'll just want to, go and create their own flows, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, like we all choose where we are. So if you want to be in a studio where you have autonomy to create the classes that you like, then you can be in a studio that's like that. If you want to be in a space where you've been given classes and you're teaching like that, you can do that too. Like there's no wrong or right. You can basically choose where you want to be. I know for myself that the autonomy to create things that were important to me, I kind of create classes with an overarching set of principles that I'm trying to adhere to. One of the principles is that spring tension will determine the target muscle group and the level of intensity. So I'm selecting spring levels intentionally to target muscle groups. Every time I put you in a body position with a spring tension, there's a muscle group we're targeting, there's an outcome we're trying to get to. I'm always going to put you in a body position long enough to guarantee you get a result. I'm not going to put you in and take you out before that happens. So because I got a whole bunch of principles in my mind that I'm trying to do, that tends to create consistency on average, because they're always something I'm trying to achieve. So in my philosophy, then basically I will want to see a great return on investment. Like if you're giving me your time, money and energy and you come into class, you're going to be guaranteed to get a result from it. To me, that's important.
Definitely.
So as far as the training, the trainers...
how many instructors do you have working for you in Melbourne?
So we've got Laura, my partner, she started Rise Pilates in Essendon about 8 years ago now. And then we opened up Rise Pilates in North Melbourne about July last year. So between the two locations there's about 22, 23 instructors.
Wow.
And trying to create an environment where there's kind of consistency. Obviously we need to all be like reading from the same playbook, we need the same exercise names, same spring levels. And same principles, things we're trying to get to.
So have you created your own handbook or manual for your staff?
So the Reformer Academy is something that is referred to based to like indicate names of exercises and spring levels to use. Obviously there's going to be variety and people still draw inspiration from other sources, and that's all good as long as you can justify why you're using it and how it works. Like I'm not really a believer in just picking anything which is different for the sake of being different. 'Cause being different is not better than something which is intentional. And often the things which are intentional, you can identify them by saying, okay, well, what's the target muscle group? Where would you start this? How would you progress it based on loading? Like, you can kind of like look at the qualities of the exercise and potentially recreate it to make it work better for the group class. People that just pick random things off Instagram and chuck it in, it's kind of a recipe for disaster, especially if you've got bigger class numbers. So with that in mind, we don't want to restrict everyone so much that they can't have that creative autonomy to create the class, but also we don't want to say to them that nothing is important. It's like we do have some kind of standards.
Like boundaries,
Yeah. And basically all our decisions are being made from the client perspective, like if you're coming to a class and there's a third of the class you can't do because the exercises are too complex or the balance challenges are too hard, then obviously the instructor isn't picking exercises based on what you need. Yeah. And that's, in my mind,
So do you split your classes at home to beginner, intermediate and advanced, or do you just, you do?
Yeah, basically. I mean, we call it level 1, level 2, level 3, but you could basically say it's beginner, intermediate, advanced. And what we're considering is the attributes of the people attending, and just generally grading them into what would be the easiest version of this, and then a harder version based on loading, and then a hardest version based on loading. Because basically all the reformer exercises, when you're looking at progression, they're only going to be either getting harder based on more resistance or harder based on less. And if it's less, then it's body weight, and if it's more, then it's spring tension as a load. So we can all identify that for the average general population, there's body positions which are achievable and some that are unachievable. So all we have to do is make sure that everything we teach in a beginner class, everyone can do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then from that point, we've got a position to scale from. And probably one element which also makes us unique is that when we're looking at adding in movement layers to an exercise, our philosophy is that we want to add movement layers which intentionally load the target muscle group more, so that every time we offer you something within the same exercise, basically we put you in a position where you're either loading the muscle group more, or you're working against more resistance, or you get less support from the springs. So basically it's a harder version of the same thing. Yeah. So that way we can look after all the different levels of ability in the class at once. So
and how many beds have you got? Because you're teaching big number. Like, so my max is 7. But there's a studio recently that's just opened in Hertford and they've got 14, and that's big for England. Like, our studios are notoriously much smaller than you guys.
We got 18.
Wow.
Yeah. 18. There's definitely bigger studios. I think it's all based on perception and what you're comfortable with based on your experience.
Yes.
For example, if an instructor comes through our studio and all they know is 18, then it's normal.
Yeah,
and
that's
true.
true.
There's no feeling about it which is different. It's like, it just is what it is, If you come from a background where the most you've ever done is 5, which is 100% fine, then naturally it would seem different.
Yes.
So as long as you've got teaching systems which optimise
like you say, the way you do it is easy because the basic movement is simple, so that everyone can do that lunge, and then you add on after that based on on their level. So yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Whereas if you're starting in something too complicated and no one can understand that instruction, you're running around wasting all your time correcting people.
That's right. I mean, you can't be everywhere at once. The more complex the setup is, the longer it takes to get into it.
Yeah.
And then the less time you've got to spend there because you're probably going to be in a position which is tough.
Yes.
So keeping it simple to start with and then scaling the load based on changing the body positions is a good strategy. I mean, there's so many different ways you could do it, but basically when you got more people, you got more things you have to look out for. So the only challenges we face when we teach group reformer are the ones we create for ourselves. If I put you in a position you can't do, I've created a problem.
Yeah.
So it's really good to have that perspective when you're teaching. If something's not working, it's my fault.
Don't underestimate the simplicity of it, basically. You go full circle, don't you? Which is what you're referring to with the whole Instagram stuff. You might see something really funky and then you're like, well, what's the point if you're only there for 20, 30 seconds and then you're retransitioning. Everyone's got to get into a different position. Simplicity is key. I've definitely learnt that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're in any position for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, then how many exercises are we going to need?
Yeah.
And then
And you do go to some classes which are like that. You're like on, off, round, and you're like, yeah. But actually, like you say, you're not stirring the pot long enough to really get that burn the next day because you're just not, giving that time under tension for one muscle for long enough.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, 30, 40 seconds is going to be too hard for some people, not hard enough for others. And you're also going to spend more time in transitions between exercises than you do in the exercise. So the more exercises you have, the less you work out.
Yeah.
So it's a weird kind of contradiction.
I know, and I find that, how long are your classes in Melbourne?
45.
45 minutes, they're all 45, so that's interesting, because I basically am 55 still. I know, like, in England, like, the most common is, like, around 50, but then lunch classes are 45. But I still overrun with my 55 minutes, but I think with the warm up and the cool down, then it's probably only 5 or 6 exercises that you're doing, adding layers onto in that 45 minutes for you, is it? Like on each side, maybe 3, maybe on each.
I suppose it really depends.
What your class plan is, obviously.
What you consider is one exercise or not. I mean, if you're looking at, for example, a lunge on one side and a lunge on the other side, I'd probably just consider that, even though it's the same thing for both sides of the body, I'd consider it 2 exercises still, just for simplicity.
Yes, exactly.
So probably at least...
so 10 then in total, yeah.
So between...
But each one for 5, so...
That's right. So between 10 to 15, I'd say. Nothing more than 15. I think more than 15 in that time period would be you rushing too much.
Yes.
Because, basically less is more as a principle to get a good experience. And, it makes it harder for us too, because if we're teaching 30 exercises, man, we're talking so much. We're just like talk.
Well, actually, my teaching schedule's changed slightly now. So whereas before I was kind of doing 9, 10, 11, I kind of just do 9 and 10. But actually that's my sweet spot. 2 hours back to back. You've got all the energy. You're absolutely loving every second. I always find if I do more than 3 hours, I just feel really kind of drained. And I feel like there's no way I could go back in the day when I used to do 1-to-1s. I used to do maximum 5 back to back. And you've just run out of what, the person having that last hour is not getting the same experience as the person who got you first thing in the morning, Yep. So, I think now it's brilliant. I do my 2 hours. I feel really inspired. I still spend loads of time planning my classes. But I feel like I've got really good energy to give to all of them. And then that break, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes to get some fresh air before you go back in. That makes a difference to me, I think, having a bit of time out of the studio if you are having a big session back to back where you've got lots to teach. Do you do mornings and evenings, or do it just depend on what you're...
My energy is best in the morning.
Yeah, me too.
I find that I fade as I get later in the day. So if I'm teaching a block at 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, I'm just on the way down, and I'm struggling to fight against
hopefully you'll be nice to me tonight then at 7:30. I'm yes, no coffee.
I'll get a nap today. I'll be ready.
I'm the same. I'm morning all the way. Especially now. So I guess here it gets light now at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm up. I walked the dog at 5:30 this morning. I was like, I've got to get that job done before I go to London. I've taken the kids to school. I've done 2 classes. I'm now here with you. So, but like you say, by 5 or 6, I'm ready for bed. I go to bed early.
Yeah, I wanted to come back to that point earlier when we were talking about your story and how you started off with one machine in the garage.
Yeah.
To me, it's just I love stories like that so much. You know what I mean? Because it's everyone's got to start somewhere, and it's such a nice place to begin because you're really creating the story as you go. That decision changed the trajectory of your life.
Oh my God.
The way you create your life now, even the way you talk about it, you're choosing what you do when you do it,
Yes. Oh, so that real work-life balance. And I mean, 100% with the young children, it was definitely a real juggling act at the beginning. It wasn't easy. And like I said, childcare was, pretty much all of my profit until they started school in reception, which is 5 years old here. But it was definitely those formative years when I was building my confidence, creating the style I like to teach, kind of becoming my brand, which I didn't realise at the time. I was just doing something I loved. And actually it gave me headspace away from the kids. I 100% wanted to be doing those 1-to-1 and teaching hours. And also like I say, moved from an area which wasn't, I didn't live in Hertford. So I was meeting you, it's so personable. You're a bit like a therapist when you're doing a one-on-one reformer session. You talk about everything in that hour. So I was meeting new friends. I just felt so fulfilled. And I think that's what a lot of people are kind of realising now. It's such a big market. There's room for everyone. Yes. And if you do your qualification, whether you're working in a studio or starting your own one, there it's so good to do something you feel passionate about. Like, I think being a mother can be quite relentless and unrewarding. You know, no one ever tells you you're doing a good job or says really thank you. So I think just having that hour where you're like, I'm good at this, I love this, and you just feel passionate about it. I mean, I still have that buzz about Pilates now, which is amazing, really, when you think about it. Like 12 years later. So I definitely picked the right thing for me, and I think that was the best advice someone could give me. Just do, what is it you love? Like, what's your passion? And that was the only thing I could think of. I was doing reformer all the time, and I was like, well, I bloody love Pilates. And then, yeah, like it grew from there, and I still have that passion. So I think that's so important, isn't it?
Definitely. How did you manage to reconnect with finding the time and recreating the habit of doing your own workouts and prioritizing your own health, with like the transition from like all the kids and then all the responsibilities?
Yeah, that, to be honest with you, and I think most people will agree, when you first start your own studio, you just say yes to everything. So I was teaching like 6 a.m.s and then, like 6 a.m. through to 11. And then, someone would want a one-to-one at 7 p.m. and I'd say yes to that too. So I was basically all over the shop, putting the kids to bed, leaving my husband in charge to like he was really helpful and like supportive in doing that. But I remember him pulling me aside once and going, this is ridiculous. Like, there's literally nothing in the fridge. And you're like, right, you're doing bedtime again. And he was like, yeah, you're doing really well at work, but you're a really shit housewife, basically. So, no, I mean, all jokes aside, but I really wasn't managing, I wasn't having time to do the shop for the house. So there was no food, it was just chaos at home. But the work was going really well. And I had to set my own boundaries and go, do you know what? I'm not teaching in the evenings anymore. I can't. As the kids got older, between 4 and 7 is when they have netball, they have swimming, they have hockey. So I didn't want a babysitter to take them to those things. That was the stuff I wanted to be present for. So I said I was only teaching one evening a week. I had a cover teacher who did that for a while. And then, like I say, I mean, you must have the struggle with that, where people change direction, or one moved away. Another one started her own studio. So, and then I also had that problem where some clients only wanted to train with me. So I just say one night a week I teach on a Wednesday. And then people, if they want to train with me, make that Wednesday night work, basically. And I just found that you have to just be really, stop saying yes to all the times that suit other people and just go, these are the hours I'm working. So once I did that, I still didn't have any time for like my own personal practice, really. And I think most people will say, you end up teaching loads and you don't fall out of love with it a bit, but you're not doing what I qualified to become a teacher because I love reformer and I was doing it 4 times a week. And then you end up just teaching it all the time. And I found it really hard to train in the space where I work. So I spend so much time in there that I don't then want to, unless I'm like training with you online or something, I just find it really hard to be consistent for that full hour. For example, when it gets hard, I'll just stop, check a text message, take a photo, I'm not pushing myself to failure on my own. I'm just not. So, I started, it's all about finding a teacher you love, isn't it? Yeah. And so I went to lots of different studios, trial and error. I've actually, found a couple now that I basically just make time for. So at 11, when I finish work, I 1 day a week, I come into London and do a class myself. I do 2 or 3 a week at home now as well. It's just about just remembering always that first 5 minutes when you're in your own space and your training is a bit, I guess slow, but once you start going, you're like, yeah, okay, you never regret a reformer workout, do you? So it's just making the time and just going, this is going to make me a better teacher, investing in myself and my own time to do that. So, yeah.
So what you're saying is the first thing you needed to do was start saying no to all the potential hours that you could work more.
Yeah, 100%. Say no to someone going, oh, actually, can you do, Thursday at 9, I go, I will have just got back from netball at time. It gives them about 15 minutes to get the kids in and do that. And I'd still be like, yeah, I'll be there. And that was not the right decision for me or my family, to then be creating that rush and just everything was just so manic. Okay. So yeah, basically just saying no. And then once I had that free time going, actually, okay, so now on a Wednesday night, I'm gonna go and do a class for myself, Yep. And I definitely feel that it's given me that spark back again. What about you? How often do you train?
So I was going through when we first opened up, I was teaching good 20, 25 plus covers here and there. And obviously if you're teaching like a night and then backing up with the morning, you just you get to the stage where you just you're getting by, you know what I mean? But you do what you got to do is what it is. But I actually hadn't done any reformer workouts for a period of months because I'd kind of just been trying to prioritize my energy to either training trainers or to teaching classes. And I kind of got to a stage where I was starting to put myself in a good position where I could actually do classes. But I felt resistant going back, so I knew my fitness wasn't as good as it wanted to be.
Yeah.
I thought, fuck, if I feel like this, imagine what everyone else feels like. I'm literally meant to be
Which
the
is
person who's fit
good.
all the time, you know.
It's good to sometimes be in that position. I found that when my back went from doing weights, just actually realising, wow, just having my feet back with this in the straps with my knees bent, like that feels amazing. I don't actually need to be doing a million different things. Just like, understanding what moves felt good on somebody who has hurt their back, or like say when you're feeling a bit weak, just going, yeah, Jesus, this is really hard, the simple stuff, and just, I'm always trying to kind of make it harder and give people more, but actually that's not necessarily what everyone wants coming back. So for example, today, all the mums that I taught are, they've all been off for 4 weeks, and most people with young kids, they might have trained once or twice. So, they all walked in looking terrified this morning. And I was like, don't worry, it's an easy one. We're coming back into it. But yeah, it's just, I guess, recognising, like you say, your crowd, what that body needs on that particular day.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, even for me to have to overcome that kind of internal resistance, kind of being potentially worried about the intensity and just not wanting to have to work so hard, like even feeling like that myself, I think it was a good refresher and reminder that it's good to have empathy, particularly if you're going to teach like a level 1 beginner level class, to make sure that at least the first thing you offer is not going to be crazy unachievable,
Yes.
Eventually what I decided to do was get back, did a class, and it felt good. I was like, oh, okay. And I used the class as also dual purpose, so it was a workout for me, but also a chance to experience what the instructors are doing.
Yeah.
And then
God, I bet they hate that when you walk into the class and be like,
oh, maybe. I don't know. I think it could be stressful, but it could be exciting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably depends on how you perceive it. A lot of the instructors did appreciate it, though. They're like, oh, it's nice to actually see you, because a lot of the time you don't see
behind the scenes, I guess, like say when you're dealing at that big size, it's like, it becomes, work doesn't become like doing what I'm doing where you're on the ground, like necessarily teaching all the classes. There's so much admin behind it, which is what you were saying about Laura with all this data stuff, it's like, that's a whole different side of it that I am useless at, by the way. I hate that side.
Yeah.
So it's just knowing your strengths, isn't it? And going, right, okay, I'm really good at being people facing and giving the energy and, teaching the classes. That's 100% me, not anything behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're saying before about creating the life that you want, you have to be able to say no to things too. So, and if you can't say no to things at the moment, then find a way to give that job to someone else.
Yes.
I know that that both Laura and I are very excited the day that we can hand over all that kind of stuff, the data stuff and all the emails and all the stuff to someone else.
Yeah.
She doesn't really necessarily love that. But it's just how it is at the moment.
Until
we get the structures and systems in place. But yeah, I mean, it is for the instructors too, as you know, like when you kind of get in that rhythm of teaching and you're teaching quite a lot, you might not see any of the other instructors for weeks or months.
Yeah, because you just swap over. When one arrives, you go,
Yeah, you just turn up and then you go, and you lose that kind of sense of camaraderie a little bit, because at least when you're going through that training process,
you're all together.
You're all together the whole time, and it's like that bonding and stuff. But then when you're actually a teacher, you're like, oh, it's just me with the clients. And if you've got good relationships with the clients,
it's
obviously
fine,
it's great.
Yeah. But like say when you're teaching that many, there's probably not that much chit-chat going on in between,
Yeah, I mean, you're only really going to be able to create the community with consistency. Like if you're always training the same people, then eventually you're going to feel, oh, these are my people.
Yes, and I'm really lucky with that. Like the same people come back all the time. So that's really, and like a smaller class size. So I'm actually doing my first retreat in October because basically people have been asking me for ages. I think people are just desperate to get away from real life and be like, this is wellness. We're all doing something really healthy. But what I have realised is that actually, we're going to put a slightly different spin on it, which is that people don't necessarily want to restrict themselves. I don't want to go away from my family for 5 days and like not eat and drink and, you know, so I think it's all about like rebalancing and so we've called it retox. So retoxing the soul. So basically your exercise and movement in the morning, and then nice lunches and like laughter with friends and belly laughs and just kind of just not full rounded experience where you come back feeling really good. So yeah, and that was basically because my clients kept on saying, come on, like you've got to do something. And I had, 14, 15 people just going, come on, what are we doing? So I actually got my friend Julia, who's unbelievably organised and just much better at attention to detail than me. I'm like, yeah, I've got this idea. And then I can't actually like A, have the time or B, like the skill set to put that together, what it actually looks like. So she's found the venue. I've got the people and the brand, and she's found the venue, the Reformer studio that we're going to use. So yeah, the 12 of us are going in October to Spain. So yeah, do you want to fly over for it, Laith?
That sounds horrible.
Come and do a cameo, please. That would be amazing.
That sounds fun.
So we're going to do mat Pilates, Reformer Pilates, and then like hiking every day, and so it should be really good. I'm really looking forward to it.
Where in Spain?
In Estepona, which is so you fly into Malaga, and it's kind of just 45 minutes from there. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Get you and Laura to come. That'd be amazing.
No, I think we'd be keen for sure.
What does your next 6 months look like back at home? So when does this tour finish? Are you finishing with England now? Is that your last one, or have you got more to go?
Yeah, so 5th of May I'll be back on the plane to Australia. So it's been pretty wild so far.
How was Liverpool? I went to uni in Liverpool.
Oh, really?
They're so friendly, aren't they, the
They're
Liverpudlians?
very friendly. Yeah. I always find it amazing that, that places have such a distinct identity, despite being so physically close to each other.
Yeah.
Like you look at the way people talk in like Manchester
That's
versus
so
Liverpool.
true, I
it's
guess,
incredibly
for you,
different.
given how spread out everything is. Yeah, that's so true.
And no, I love it. I love seeing all these unique parts of all these different places, and obviously the energy that everywhere has. Like it's really nice for me. This trip, at least, I've been able to kind of have a bit more freedom to kind of move around. I've been exploring a lot more country areas. Yeah. Maybe I'm getting older now. I appreciate the peace and quiet. Whereas before I'd be like right in the middle of the city. But now I'm like, no, I'm going to find a little spa somewhere and just hang out.
I saw you in that spa. It's like, that's so funny. I went to Barbados recently to train a studio. I went in September to train a studio out there, like 3 of the instructors there. And then she's doing so well, she's opening a second one. So I went back again, like last month, which I had no idea it would be that soon. And same thing as you, this time I kind of got my own apartment, hired a car. And so I didn't start work because the studio was so busy in the morning with classes. I didn't start work till midday. So I was waking up at 5 because of the time difference, going to the gym, driving my little car around, then going to the beach, had like 2 hours, 3 hours on the beach, and then to work. And then by 7 p.m. I was shattered because, as you know, like just talking all day is exhausting. But it was amazing. I was there and I gave myself an extra 2 days. So my husband was like, oh, have you finished work? You up for coming back? I was like, absolutely not. No, I'm like chilling here on the beach for another 2 days and calling it work. I mean, I just can't believe, I still pinch myself that happened. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah. I've never been to Barbados. What's it like?
Really cool. Like, tiny really where all of the main strip is, but like beautiful, stunning beaches, monkeys just on the beaches everywhere, beautiful, like warm sea. So when I went in September, I literally went for 2.5 days and I did the whole course in 2.5 days. So when I say I didn't see the beach or anything, just before I went back to the airport, I just said, drop me off, asked a taxi to drop me off so I could swim in the sea. And that's madness. You're going all that way, like what am I rushing back for sort of thing, apart from the children, but they're old enough that they, and it's important to enjoy those experiences too, rather than, like just straight in and out. So I get what you say about having a bit more time and then you enjoy the actual process of the teaching more as well, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the more experience you have, the more you kind of pick how you want it to be, I suppose.
Yeah, well, you learn from each experience, don't you? Yeah.
Like, for example, now when I do any travelling, I'm always making sure that I'm not taking shortcuts. Like, I'm not going to book, like, the earliest flight, which is cheap.
Yeah,
Because it's not worth getting out of bed that early. You know what I mean? Because then you just ruin the day. Like,
then you're shattered wherever you get to. That's so true.
Yeah, so just making decisions that are based on more, like, comfort in travelling definitely work better.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, to have an opportunity to go to Barbados and to to train trainers. How exciting is
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And I've got a girl coming over next week from New York. So she's going to try and do the first 2 modules here with me, and then I might try and fly to New York too. I'm now of the opinion that I'm like, yeah, I'll come to your house. But yeah, so we're going to maybe do the 3rd module with her out there. But I mean, there's a late girl from Cyprus who's really keen. So yeah, I think, like I say, it's just globally kind of kicking off, isn't it, Reformer? And like you said, we've been doing it for a very long time. So I think, maybe that's why it seems like we're, well, when you call me a pioneer, I definitely don't feel like that in my head, but I think I just started maybe 6-7 years before everyone else. So like we're just, very established in what we know we like to teach and what we do now.
Yeah, there's probably a bit of an opportunity too with that to create like a bit of a personal brand and get the runs on the board a little bit.
Yeah.
And pretty much if it becomes your identity, then you kind of take on the habits of someone that does that. Like if, for example, in a transition period in your life when you're going from like one career to another, it might feel initially like you're stepping into something, but it's not really you. But as soon as that becomes your identity, then
then it is. Yeah.
Everything you do is just in alignment with that.
Yeah.
So.
Which actually, interestingly, so I'm about to change my brand. So I've been Cedar Studio Pilates since I started, and that was because that was the name of my old house, Cedar Studio. And actually now the Reformer Academy is becoming so much bigger that I think it's more aligned with, it's called the Kim Shipton method. So I think I'm going to change. Well, I am changing. My website's going to be called the Kim Shipton Method, and then all of the people who come through my academy will be, kind of what's the word? Will have just that Kim Shipton Method logo like in their windows, and it will just be a bit more full body. So at home I'll be the Kim Shipton Method at Cedar Studios, which is my studio there. But let's not say in the future I might be the Kim Shipton Method at Barbados, or so. No, I'm not gonna. I would love to open a studio in Barbados, but I think what stopped me from being keen to open a second studio is I think sometimes, a lot of people have said, sometimes one is better to do really well. Sometimes when you have 2, you dilute it. Well, more than, there's lots of companies here who've just gone huge, like all out and kind of gone for 12, 13, 14 branches. But what I've seen from that is that, it's the instructor problem, isn't it? You're keeping the consistency. So they're basically getting all their best instructors to teach in the new studios that are opening to drive business there. And then the loyal clients are like, well, hang on a minute, where's Valentino? He's taught me for 12 years in this studio on a Saturday morning. I guess that's still the same challenges that any new businesses face. But I just think with me and time so limited with the children, I'm kind of really conscious of like wanting to like have all these amazing ideas and put them into place. But I'm also conscious that probably, my eldest is 10 now. They're 10, 9 and 7. So I just think a couple more years and I can start doing that bigger stuff, when they won't need me as much. And that, like 12 onwards will be secondary. And so I just think like I'm just kind of on the cusp of wanting to do it, but then knowing I'll be so torn and like kind of time deprived that actually just waiting maybe another couple of years to make a big move like that would be the right thing for me and my family. But yeah, timing's everything, I guess. So we'll see what the market looks like in 3 years, because it's just, it's going from strength to strength, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, some things we can guarantee. It's going to be more instructors, it's going to be more studios. So that's, if you're an instructor trainer, there's more opportunity.
Yeah. Like say, there's Frame in London, and they have a class running every hour from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. And they just don't have the instructors to teach them, Yep. So there's 100% a demand. And, you get paid way more being a Reformer instructor than you do being a PT, So I think that market's really saturated now. It's just like, You
get paid more than a physio.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that when people look at Reformer Pilates and they look at being an instructor, it definitely does carry, at least aesthetically, a different kind of status to other types of being
100%,
instructors.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got lots of parents like putting their kind of like their daughters who are like 19, 20, 21 through the course, because they go, well, when they go to university, at least they'll be earning an hourly rate of 30 quid an hour rather than 8 quid behind a bar, like unsociable hours. At least that's a much healthier lifestyle to, it's a great part-time job to have until they figure out what it is they want to do, or if it is what they want to do, But and
it's a skill set, and you can get employment anywhere in the world because there's so many studios now. So
yeah,
like if you're really, really good
that's so
instructor.
true, actually. I didn't think about that. You could travel around the world and have a job wherever you went. Yeah.
Yeah, because at the moment, through just like contacts of people sometimes reach out to me, say, hey, I'm going to move to Perth, or hey, I'm going to move to England, or I'm going to move to America. is there anyone you know that is looking for instructors? And I'd be
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I'd literally just send them the contact details and link them up.
Yeah, it's so true. So with the academy as well at the moment, there's all of these people coming through and starting studios, and then they're like, any new clients you get through coming through, like send them my way. I don't mind if they're apprentices. I'll just pay them a slightly reduced rate. So, you're actually not only giving people the opportunity to have a career, but also then giving them a job as well, potential job as well. So it's amazing. Yeah. That's what the community is all about, isn't it? So my new Kim Shipton method website is all going to be so that anyone who's done my academy before can all be interactive and talk to each other, and that will be part of the members area sort of thing. But I'm so useless at technology.
Oh, it takes so long to learn.
Yeah. I literally, so since I worked in the city where I used to be dealing with like 12-page spreadsheets, I'm not joking, like I was, that was my job. I was an analyst. I now have gone from like not having a computer for 10 years. I mean, look, we've got one in the house, obviously, but you do everything on my phone or the iPad. Yep. And so now I'm literally like a dinosaur, just cannot get anything to work. Even uploading a video, like the girl who does my Instagram is like, Kim, wow, it's like dealing with my mother. So I'm like, I'm so bad. So I've got to, but actually now I've just learned, okay, just stop stressing myself out by trying to continue to do something that isn't my strength. Yeah. That's not a good use of my time. Like get somebody else to upload the video. I know it's ridiculous, but just get someone else to do that. And then I'm not stressing about it. Like that's a better way of just understanding what strengths and weaknesses are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can outsource those tasks because like your time is obviously more valuable doing things you're good at.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm learning all the time.
And that's also very scalable too, because the more things that you can be involved in and the less time it takes you to do all of them, then the better. Like I think that's a smart way to go. At the start, initially, it's probably worth doing most things yourself because obviously it costs a lot less.
Yeah.
But if you get to a stage where it's actually holding you back, then definitely outsource all that stuff for sure. Now there's so many options too. Like like everyone knows someone who's good at this stuff.
I know. My nephew is. I just need to ask him. I'm still in that thing at the moment where she's like, "Have you sent me the videos?" And I'm like, I can't get them online. She's like, "Have you done it off a laptop?" And I say I don't own one. She's like, "What?" So we're just having this back and forth at the moment, using like an 8-year-old's laptop to do my whole business work. But I still in my head don't really feel like I've got this big business, It's weird. It's just all just been me for such a long time. So now I'm like, oh God, got other people to answer to who want like my accounts and I've got to, I'm accountable to them.
Yep.
So yeah.
I like how you've gone for like the personal brand in the name and then in the design, as in your personal brand, your name in the logo. I think it's really nice because the more of that personal brand and the more you strengthen that over time, the more people are going to trust it, and it's also it's very unique, it's
not many people that I was looking at. It's not many people that do that. But my thing was like, does it feel a bit like kind of egotistical to be like the Kim Shipton? It still doesn't it still feels a bit like too big for my boots right now. But actually, the main thing I was thinking, if I had a jumper, and like all of my, a lot of my friends have turned into clients now, I was thinking, would they want my name on their jumper? It's like weirding me out a bit. But I think long term, it's the right decision to make. And I just need to step away from the fact that it's all just me. Because at the moment, it's so personal. Everyone who comes in, I'm still in touch with, they might text me and go, what class plan can I do? I've just got someone who's just walked in with scoliosis. Can you help? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I'm still like in communication with any of them whenever they need me, basically. Yep. And that was part of the deal that it's not just you do the course and you go. It's kind of ongoing mentoring to a certain extent, or with whatever I can help with. I'm not purporting to be like a genius, but I just think, there's some things with experience with owning a business that you can answer the questions, can't you?
Yeah, and you'd be there, if you're there long enough, it's the same questions that come up again and again.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you got a handle on it, then it's really not much effort to help them out. But it's nice that you have that ongoing community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to try and find on my actual website, try and get them all together with logins and, but yeah, you'll be probably waiting another year for that to happen. Just WhatsApp me if you're watching this. You're much quicker to get back to you.
It's funny though, because I've kind of been through different stages too, where I thought, maybe it would be better if I create more of a professional image, which is like less personable, because I want to kind of have the business be more like that. But then the second I did that, it actually performed worse.
Did it? Yeah.
So it's really interesting how, like, just sticking to that real strong personal brand, I think, at least in this marketplace now on social media, everything's based on trust, you know,
Yeah.
like basically when you're making decisions, they're emotional decisions based on what's the likelihood that this is going to work. And if you've got a really strong connection to someone through like hours and hours and hours of exposure on social media, that trust is there.
Yes, it is. And I think that's my other thing, which I hate, similar to this, which is like just the filming days. I was never really good at it. So all of my Instagram before would just be me filming my clients in classes. So like giving snapshots of like my flows or whatever. But actually, when I looked at the people I follow, I don't follow people to look at their clients' training. I want to see them on the Reformer.
Yep.
And really, was I a destination to go for somebody who was wanting Pilates inspiration? No, because it was never me on the Reformer. So my Instagram lady was like, right, okay, you need to do like 2 hours, not even that much, 2 hours a month with me, and I'll split it up and we can use that as content. And same thing, I hate it before she gets there. And she's like, you look so tense with your shoulders, like just look normal. And I'm like, okay. But like I say, here now that I'm talking to you, I've kind of switched off that's there and I'm fine. But when it's just a camera in your face and you're having to talk, I find I'm so awkward. So I need to get better at that.
No, I think you're doing fantastic, to be honest. Yeah, like you can see that your energy, you got such a fun, like exciting energy about you.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to come across really well in this setup too. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's what people are really buying into. It's like they want that kind of enthusiasm and excitement, especially from someone they're going to work out with, because it's an extra motivational aspect you can bring.
100%, yeah.
And I'm creating that social connection. That happens when you can like elevate someone's mood and your presence, but you can't do that if you're okay and fine.
Yeah. Which happen, like you say, which naturally, if you're teaching 5 hours back to back, you're going to lose a bit of your oomph, aren't you? You're just going to be a bit like, oh, okay, you know. So, yeah, I think there's, you know, it's a sweet spot of being able to, you know, still be inspired and do the right amount of hours back to back, and you know, like it's lots of different things, not being knackered.
So, if we were to look at, from your perspective on the market, because I know one thing that people always ask me is because after I'm going to these different locations, different countries, they're looking for a bit of an insight into how things are in different places. You know, like, oh, what's America like at the moment? What's England like at the moment? You know, how many studios are there and what type of studios? And I always find it interesting generally to get a feel for how things are.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, based on the UK market in the last, let's say, 5 to 6 years, what are some things you've noticed? What are some trends?
Well, obviously an upward trend in new studios opening. I mean, they're everywhere. I would say I'm starting to see like much bigger studios in London. So you've got your One Rebel, and there's a few other ones which have gone for that kind of like dark Barry's vibe. Do you have a Barry's in Australia?
Yep. So
good. Do you do them?
Well, they're basically one in Melbourne, one in Sydney, as far as I'm aware. Maybe there's a second one in Melbourne now. I'm not sure, but I absolutely love the atmosphere they create in there.
Yeah, same. Yeah. So hopefully you'll be surprised when you come to the studio tomorrow. But I love that kind of like lights down, like really like loud music. So you can like, I feel like I train harder when it's not like all like sunlight on my face. You know, like you can really get down and gritty. So I think there's a few more studios like that in London, much bigger class sizes, which I think is becoming the norm, which has always been the way in Australia, hasn't it? But yeah, I mean, trend-wise, I can only see it going upwards. I mean, I just don't know, you know, it's interesting to hear your point about saying it, you know, you don't think that the market will become saturated, that there's room for everyone. I think if you have your unique style, and I think I didn't even realise that was happening to me from when I did my training to where I am now, and the people that inspire me, like you're absolutely up there with, you know, one of the top people that I go to for inspiration, and like, you know, I just love your philosophy about training, which is why thank God you're back for another workshop tomorrow, which is amazing. But yeah, I think I've really morphed into a different style. So now I can't go, well, the competition in Hertford with 12, you know, it's a small population, there's 12 studios, but no one's like me because I do it differently. So you can't, it's not really comparing like to like, because, you know, they probably have all done the similar manuals and, you know, are just not really doing the strength stuff. Whereas I've just turned into something which is, you know, people are quite not frightened of, that's the wrong thing, but like, you know, it's hard, like it's a workout. And so I just have to go, well, that's, you know, that's just the way I like to train, and I don't even realise that journey was happening, but it has. So I'm different now, I guess, and I think everyone will have their unique selling points based on what they like to do. But I think Essex, which is a county right next to us, they are, I've trained 3 girls with studios there, and they're all literally fully booked, doing 7-8 hours a day classes. So I think that as a county, they are way ahead of the curve in terms of, they've always loved reformer, but there is just huge potential there for business. So yeah, and that's, obviously creates lots of people wanting to become instructors as well. So
yeah, well, I'm interested to see if there does become a point, at least in Melbourne, if there is such a thing as too many studios, because you got some suburbs of Melbourne that have 20 different franchises now.
Wow.
It's like
20.
Yeah. So everyone
But does everyone stick to their brand? Like mainly,
Do you know what? I think a lot of people kind of get a class pass and just bounce around wherever they want to go, to be honest with you. And definitely every studio has their loyal customers, but there is definitely a transient kind of like casual.
I need to get on that class pass thing. My friend was saying that there's a couple of studios in Hertford that are on that. So yeah, I need to look into that because that's, I guess, worth it. I never think about that you're...
Yeah, I think it basically, your performance on something like class pass will be determined pretty much by your proximity to like a CBD, I reckon. Like the closer you are to a bigger city centre with like more foot traffic, then the more you're going to get that kind of client that'll find it more convenient to do that.
Yeah.
But the more located you are in more of a rural area,
people are just going to the same place.
The better, you're probably better off just keeping a system where you actually retain 100% of the money that you get per booking.
Yeah.
But, if you're in like a bigger city location with a lot of capacity in your studio, then there's really no downside to having extra people come in.
Yeah.
So, kind of looking to the day where there might be too many studios. It's hard to tell how everyone's going, because from the outside, everyone seems to be doing fine. I mean, you look at the numbers in the studios, a lot of studios are doing great based on numbers, but that doesn't necessarily give you the full picture.
Yeah, I know. And it's really easy to compare yourself to all the videos and stuff you're seeing on Instagram, being like, my God, why everyone's so busy? Why have my classes dropped off, sort of thing? And, I definitely have become less busy since there's been more competition in Hertford, 100%. But what I've realised is that actually that gives me more time to put into the academy. It means the 2 hours classes I teach in the morning actually is my sweet spot, and it allows me to then go and do my own class.
Yep.
And actually just going to know what, don't stress about that, just actually do what you do really well and focus on the choreography of my classes, which is really my kind of unique selling point. And I think, no one can get into your brain and recreate that, can they? So that's the bit that you can only do.
Yep.
So yeah, I think with more competition, it does, like you say, disperse the market. But everyone, I think, gravitates to the teachers they like and have a personal connection with, and that's also really personal as well, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, if you can create that personal connection and guarantee results for the clients, I mean, at least the results they're looking for, I don't think you're going to have a problem at all. Like, because the market's so diverse. I personally view it as it's a total net gain for everybody.
Yeah.
Because every time a new studio opens up, there's probably going to be people going there that have never done it before.
Yeah.
So now they're in the market and they weren't before.
Yeah.
So it's not really like there's a limited amount of people and now we're having less and less of each.
Yes,
it's
that's
more
so
like
true.
everyone's adding to the pool anyway.
I like that thought.
But
that's what my husband says. He has pubs and restaurants, and he's like, we can do every time someone walks into a different pub, like the competition's good.
if anything, then like the mindset you take to it probably is the biggest part of it. Like if you've got that abundance mindset and you're very confident in the service you're providing and you focus on what's under your control, I don't really think there's many things that are
it's all about that, isn't it? Focusing on what you can control.
Yeah, there's a lot of things out there, a lot of studios, and it would be very easy to take a mindset which would see that as a bad thing. But I think if you can stay positive and focus on what's under your control, if anything, it's going to make you be better.
Keep focusing on your brand, exactly.
And if you are doing the best you can and you've got everyone on board with a mission to achieve something, I think it's going to be fun.
And I think that's a difference, like the results-driven approach. Like, say, when you make your classes structured and harder and there's a progression, I'd say most of my clients now are like, 2-3 times a week consistently, all, really, really seeing huge changes over the year, like not in a short period of time, but and that's what you want, really, isn't it? That's real job satisfaction, seeing people get stronger and change. So
so we're getting kicked out now.
I can't believe I did an hour. I didn't think I was going to be. I was like, I've got nothing to say. I've done it.
Kim, I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you. It's
Absolute honour
lovely to
have
see you. Yeah, it really was. You've made me feel very relaxed.
Oh, good. Yay. And no, I just really wanted to share Kim's story. I think his story is fantastic and it's very inspirational. I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to like open up one reformer in the garage and get started.
Yeah.
And who knows where it could go. So the main thing is just got to get started.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.